Skuntank looking for the poison jab farm down. The opponent looking to reach the Icy Wind. They don't make it. The opponent's final Pokemon is Skeledirge. It's going to be very important to throw an optimal fast move time. We throw 2 poison jabs and the first crunch. Skuntank now going to commit to the correct 7 poison jabs and the next crunch. The opponent's win con is going to be to farm down Skuntank, running out of HP. But who was worried? We reached the next crunch and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at my signature team in the Open Ultra League. I've been running Fighter Double Dark Poison for over 2 years. This team has been popularized recently, but if you know, you know. This has always been a go-to team for both me and my Discord members. If you want to join the Discord, it's linked down below. However, I actually think this team has got even better than it used to be. And that is because Feraligatr is now here, there, and every fucking where. And we have got 3 very solid responses for it on this team. I know a lot of other content creators like to give tier lists. And if I was to do a tier list, I'd put Shadow Skuntank in the absolute god tier. Because this thing is a monster. If you don't know about his power, stick around and you're about to find out. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we Poliwrath into Dragonite. Not the best matchup when shields are up. However, we attempt to catch the Dragon Claw onto our Say Switch of Drapion, and the opponent has exactly the same idea, attempt to catch the Icy Wind onto Ampharos. If you're going to run this team, this is a standard ABB team, where we're always going to look to Say Switch into Drapion, looking to draw out the hardest Dark Poison counter, allowing Skuntank to sweep. We managed to force ourselves shield advantage in the mid game, and that is all I ever want. As when Skuntank has a small energy lead or shield advantage, it is such a ruthless closer. With that in mind, I'm going to look to get myself an energy lead and keep my 2 shields in tow. We send out Skuntank, commit to the poison jab farm down. The opponent sends out their third, which is Magnezone. I don't often bait, but Magnezone's lightly shields everything. We fire off the crunch, forces the protect shield. We then go for the wham, bam, combo play, serving up the Big Mac and the fried scold. Almost secures the knockout. Back out comes Dragonite. The opponent looks for the Dragon Breath farm down. They don't get there. Icy Wind, double super effective, and that is going to be all she wrote. In the next battle, we see Toxicroak in the lead. Without a doubt, one of the hardest Pokemon for this line of 3 to beat. The sub-poison typing mean our counters are resisted, and as you can see, they've got Mud Bomb, which will be hitting our back line for super effective. I build to the Skull bait with the Icy Wind. Jamie Finn says he never baits, but I've baited 2 matches in a row, so if you play me, watch out. I've had enough of you all shielding my nukes. In this matchup, if you successfully bait, you can win the 1 shield, getting the Scold off. We fire off the Scold, securing the knockout. We then instantly pivot into Drapion, saving Poliwrath essentially as a sacrificial swap at this stage. The opponent send out Haxorus. What the hell is this team? How does this team beat Giratina? I have no idea. Not even just Giratina. Any ghost type, any psychic type, this team makes little sense. However, these are not hand-selected battles. This is 3 continuous sets. You're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. This opponent's actually running triple counter, and this is dreadful. I'm actually going to have to shield up the power-up punch, because if I don't, I'm going to get counter farmed down. We're going to look to catch the next power-up punch back onto our 3rd shield. Do we have a chance here? These vamped up counters are going to do so much damage. I full send the flamethrower. Does the opponent respect the damage? Oof. And the opponent is going to counter farm down, and we're going to take a loss. In the next battle, we see everyone's favourite basic bitch tin can in the lead. A very nice lead for Poliwrath, especially when shields are up. The opponent say switches into Feraligatr, and I answer with Drapion. So the thought process of going Drapion rather than Skuntank is the fact that we're running Flamethrower for coverage. I'm actually anticipating this being double water, so I'm not even going to commit a Protect Shield. I'm just going to wait out my clock. I'm going to send in Skuntank, commit to the Poison Jab farm down and get a running start. As again, in the 2 shield, this really isn't a bad matchup for Skuntank. A lot of people like to run Trailblaze. I like Flamethrower because I absolutely hate Registeel. We land the Flamethrower, the opponent then pivots out into Dragalge. So the team read isn't the best one. The opponent fire off the Aqua Tail, which is a bit of a strange play. What's also strange is if I would have not TMP'd there, I would have thrown on alignment like a potato. However, the second time, we are going to throw 4 counters and the Icy Wind. Icy Wind forces a Protect Shield. Again, this is only an Aqua Tail, and this is now 2-stage debuffed. I think the Aqua Tail actually healed me. The opponent looking for the Dragon Tail farm down. They don't get there. Poliwrath reaches the next Icy Wind. Icy Wind secures the knockout. We pivot back out into Skuntank. We've got 2 Protect Shields, 2 high behind. No 1 move will actually knock out. I do invest that Protect Shield, hoping the opponent will top left, and finally they do concede the match. In the next battle, we see the mirror lead. Whenever I see Poliwrath in the lead, I'm always thinking, is this a mirror team? I always go Skull, because Skull gets same type attack bonus. A lot of other opponents like to throw Icy Wind. I am not a huge fan of that. The opponent actually bank all their energy, switch out into Giratina, so I rebank some energy and catch the Dragon Claw onto our Drapion safe switch. Now the meta's shifted into a place where it's pretty hostile. For Cobalion, I think Drapion is back to being one of the best safe switches in the format. You can see Giratina, also a very common safe switch, and Drapion just shuts this threat down. Despite this Drapion being a hundo, we actually survive 3 Dragon Claws, whereas you can see Giratina gets knocked out by the second crunch. We tank the third, the opponent then pivots out into Cresselia. We save our Drapion and answer with Skuntank. 2 Moonblasts are lethal, however I never shield the first move in case the opponent tries to go for some nonsense grass knot bait. My Skuntank also has dreadful IVs. I'd recommend a good PvP IV one, but it is what it is. You can see the opponent place the CMP tie. They do not win. Crunch almost secures the knockout. We've still got 2 Protect Shields, 2 hide behind. The opponent fire off the grass knot like an absolute potato. At this stage now, as Poliwrath has residual energy, we're just going to let Skuntank go down and put all our faith in a 2-shield Poliwrath. I send out Poliwrath. Poliwrath gets the resisted counter farm down. I'm looking top right. Out comes Poliwrath. We fire off the Scald. Losing CMP. Poliwrath is the only member of our team that has PvP IVs. This Skull won't be lethal as the opponent has debuffed us, then pivot out into Giratina, and Giratina is going to be greeted with the Icy Wind. Icy Wind isn't going to be lethal. However, it is going to put them into a range where we're going to be able to double resisted counter farm down. I shield up the Dragon Claw, commit to the counter farm down, back out comes Poliwrath, and our Poliwrath muscles its way to victory. In the next battle, we see Trevenant in the lead. I always like to build up energy and try my luck at making a Seed Bomb catch. The catch didn't look the cleanest, however it looks like the opponent panicked through. We're going to take that, thanks trainer. My Drapion safe switch is met with Poliwrath, and this is the reason why I run Sludge Bomb. Of course, Aqua Tail has been buffed this season. I think Aqua Tail Drapion is actually pretty good, however not on this team. I have showcased Aqua Tail Drapion in a different team in the Open Ultra League this season, so if you want to see that, it'll be linked somewhere on my channel. Speaking of which, that Drapion isn't even the same one we're running today. It is a rank 1, so not only we've got the hundo, we've got the rank 1. What a flex. Drapion is the channel mascot and the RNG gods have blessed me. However, as always, I've got distracted, so returning to the commentary, I send back out my own Poliwrath, kill the opposing Poliwrath. We pivot into Skuntank. To greet Trevenant, the opponent gives us a running start and then send out Feraligatr, and you're about to see the ruthless closing power of Shadow Skuntank. These poison jabs tearing through Feraligatr, whereas the Shadow Claws, they're running, are resisted. I'm just going to be able to 2-shield through this Gator. The opponent isn't even going to reach the third Hydro Cannon. Skuntank gets the full poison jab farm down, back out comes Trevenant. We're almost at the back-to-back crunches. The opponent recognises the game's over, just concede the match. GG's. And that is going to draw to a close set number 1, where we go 4-1. In the next battle, hello Minty Green Tin Can, nice to see you nice. We're going to farm up, throw the Scald as soon as we get it, which is going to be a charge move prior event to the Zap Cannon. I get a lot of people ask me, how do I count lock-ons? So the key to counting lock-ons is just count your own quick move. So if you're using a 2-turn move, it's 2, 4, 6, 8. If you're using a 3-turn move, every one you throw, they're going to get 3 lock-ons. 4-turn move, they're going to get 4 lock-ons. Something like Incinerate, of course, every Incinerate you throw, they're going to get 5 lock-ons. The opponent then send out Poliwrath. I fire off the Scald. Scald goes unshielded. We'll then fire off the Crunch on the CMP tie. Crunch won't be lethal, but we do force a Protect Shield back. I could shield and farm down. However, with the counter damage, I'm essentially in Zap Cannon or Focus Blast range, so I need to save a Protect Shield. We're just going to lose switch. We can now send out our own Poliwrath. We are going to be able to counter farm down, however we are going to get debuffed in the process. Icy Wind doesn't do all that much damage. The opponent then aggressively switch out into Feraligatr. We're going to fire off the Scald. Scald, going to put this thing into crunch range. I save my Poliwrath and send out Drapion. We can survive one move, whereas the opponent certainly is in crunch range. We tank the first Hydro Cannon. I could have thrown the crunch immediately, however I'm going to opt to shield this up and just look to maximise my energy. We fire off the crunch. Crunch will be lethal or forcing the final Protect Shield. You can see I do pause a turn. I don't think the opponent's timer was quite up, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Crunch does secure the knockout. The opponent then sends back out Registeel. Registeel is getting very close to crunch range. Is crunch enough to knock out No, it isn't. We do Poison Sting, farm down, back out comes Poliwrath, and we Poison Sting, farm that down as well, and take the dub. In the next battle, we see another Poliwrath lead. This is so common. I can't really complain, as I'm also abusing this top meta threat. You can see, as I said earlier, I've got no idea why opponents love to throw Icy Winds. Of course, it does guarantee the attack drop. However, Scald does objectively more damage. We fire off the Scald and then going to farm up, look to catch the next Icy Wind onto our save switch of Drapion. I really like trying to save Poliwrath, not only with health but with energy, to potentially deal with whatever the opponent counter swaps into our Drapion. In this case, it's Guzzlord, and that Icy Wind is going to come in clutch. We tank the Dragon Claw. We're going to return fire with the Sludge Bomb. Once again, this is why you don't want to run Aqua Tail, because your Dark Poisons are often met with something that would completely wall Crunch and Aqua Tail. The Sludge Bomb lands for decent neutral damage. I can send out Poliwrath, throw one counter and the Icy Wind. Icy Wind doesn't get the same type of attack bonus, and Guzzlord is incredibly thick. Unfortunately, it isn't quite lethal. We're just going to tank this move, commit to the counter farm down, and put it all on Skuntank. Back out comes Poliwrath. Poliwrath desperately looking to reach a charge move. They don't get there. Skuntank gets the Poison Jab farm down, and out comes Skeledirge. As I've got 2 Protect Shields too high behind, the opponent likely looks to go for the full Incinerate farm down. So it's going to be super important for optimal fast move timing. That is 2 Poison Jabs or 7. If I would have thrown at 4 there, you're going to see that next Incinerate would have took me out. However, as I was super disciplined, through the correct 7, we're able to take that game. That was a prime example of what I always preach. If you're going to run these squishy shadow Pokemon, it's so important that you always throw optimal fast move timing. In the next battle, I see Charizard in the lead. You can see I pause a turn, ensuring the opponent doesn't catch a Crunch onto something that it does resist. However, this is Cobalion, so I'm going to throw Crunch regardless. However, in case it was something like a Guzzlord, of course, we would like to hold our energy to fire off the Sludge. Cobalion isn't all that common this season in the meta. However, sometimes you are going to get hard punished. You'll notice there, I had the Crunch, however, I intentionally did not throw. So if I would have thrown, and it wasn't CMP, the opponent would have double kick farmed me all the way down and would have fired off 1 million Sacred Swords at my Poliwrath. As we force the energy off that Cobalion, we only have to take 1 Sacred Sword, which allows us to leave healthy enough to actually survive a Blast Burn. The opponent then catch the Icy Wind onto Giratina, however that is absolutely perfect for me, as 1 Icy Wind with a load of Poison Jabs puts this Giratina into Crunch range, and of course we've now lowered their attack, aka their damage output. I farm up, throw the Crunch on the CMP tie, Crunch goes unshielded, the opponent putting all their hopes and dreams on the back of a 2-shield Charizard. I farm up, throw the Crunch, show me the defense drop. Unfortunately, we don't get the defense drop. The opponent opts to throw a charge move. I think an argument could have been made for this opponent just to look for the complete wing attack farm down. The opponent again throws a charge move, allowing me to shield that up, sneak the Poison Jab, then stay in school, kids, learn to count. We're going to catch the next Dragon Claw onto Poliwrath. The opponent no bubbles it, and we counter farm them down and take the dub. In the next battle, we see another core breaker. Much like Toxicroak, this thing can be a headache. We farm up, counter 8, which is a potential Shadow Ball, and look to catch it onto Drapion. The opponent full send the Shadow Ball, and then answer with Gyarados. A very cool pick. I might actually try Gyarados myself. Gyarados used to be a top meta threat, however it has since fell off. Now Aqua Tail has been buffed, perhaps it has some play. The opponent didn't overfarm whatsoever, so I'm looking at this Gyarados' health range and thinking, do 6 Poison Jabs knock out? I'm really hoping the answer is yes. However, they actually just about get there, which is brutal. I think if we would have Poison Jab farmed down, we'd be in a pretty good spot. They then send out Empoleon, and we fire off the Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded, then farm up, looks to catch the Hydro Cannon back onto Poliwrath. I'm going to anticipate the opponent instantly switching back out into Annihilate. Scald certainly isn't going to knock out from here, so I need to guarantee the attack drop and hope that Skuntank can somehow clean up. The opponent smartly fire for a charge move on the CMP tie. The opponent fire off the Ice Punch, which we survive, which is going to allow us to reach 1 further Icy Wind. The opponent does invest that Protect Shield. They do get the counter farm down. We send out Skuntank. I think the only win con here would be potentially Poison Jabbing farming down. Poison Jab is going to be resisted. Can we get there? No, we can't. And unfortunately, we are going to take a loss. However, a very tough team comp for me to deal with. Heading into the next battle, something isn't tough to deal with is Obstagoon. The opponent save switches into Skeledirge. As they got a 1-turn switch, that is going to allow me to reach this goal before the opponent reaches a charge move. We force ourselves an early shield advantage and then save switch into Drapion. We also managed to sneak the Poison Sting in the process, which is going to allow me to outpace to the crunch the opponent, invest their final Protect Shield. I'm actually going to shield once, as both Counter and Poison Jab are going to be resisted. We're going to look to get this thing a lot lower. We fire off the next crunch. Crunch actually secures the knockout. These battles were played like 2 weeks ago or something, so I think it was when like defense drop wasn't showing, and judging by that damage, we certainly got it. Once again, you can see why I run Sludge Bomb. A Sludge Bomb does over half of Obstagoon's health, and then pivot out into Skuntank, not allowing the opponent any free farm, and potentially Hyper Beam in my Poliwrath. Again, Skuntank being an absolute menace, core breaking the remainder of this opponent's team. This next Dragon Claw won't even be lethal. We're just going to farm up, throw the crunch on the CMP tie, stay in school kids, learn to count. Always be super annoying when you can. Crunch, of course, massive overkill, back out, comes Obstagoon. We're just going to fire off the crunch. Crunch won't be lethal. However, we'll pretty much put them into one counter range. I'm going to shield in case the opponent is running Hyper Beam. Evidently they're not, but either way we take the dub. And that is going to draw to a close set number 2, where we also go 4-1, and you're about to see where we started this season elo wise, if I can actually catch these Pokemon. We managed to start at 22.06, heading into the next set, the third and final set. Again we see Annihilape. Last time we did manage to lose to this. Let's see if we get some redemption again. I attempt to catch the Shadow Ball unsuccessfully. The opponent answers my Drapion save switch with Tentacruel. We fire off the crunch. We're then going to farm up, throw the next crunch on the CMP tie. I think it's always super important to try and make adjustments. Last time, the issue I had when I played Annihilape was the fact I let him save 2 Protect Shields. So I'm actually going to shield Drapion here and look to try and get some shields back off the opponent. Again, I'm going to farm up, throw the crunch on the CMP ties. 8 to the first Scald, 7 to the second. Crunch does force that Protect Shield, and I'm actually going to go all shields down. We fire off the Scald. The opponent then gets super aggressive, pivot out into Annihilape. They're forced to expend a Shadow Ball to secure the knockout. I'm thinking, how do I beat this thing? We're going to send out Skuntank. I know I do survive any one move. We farm up, throw the crunch on the CMP tie. Crunch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. And I'm sure if you've watched my channel before, you know what's up. We go for that wham, bam, combo play, pivot out into Poliwrath. Get that Annihilape off my screen. It's now all shields down. Can we finally beat this Annihilape lead? The opponent sends back out Tentacruel for no reason whatsoever. Tentacruel gets counter farm down. The opponent then sends out Greedent. I'm going to full send the Scald. I'm not fishing for any attack drop. I just want to maximise damage output. The opponent fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam isn't going to be lethal. The opponent's going to be forced to dump one more. Do 4 Poison Jabs. Secure the knockout. Who was worried? And finally Annihilape is slayed. In the next battle, we see another mirror lead. Let's see if this opponent wants to be horny for the debuff or if they're going to full send the Scald. This opponent at least does build up to the Scald and they correctly throw it. I always take the extra as my Poliwrath is like a 0, 14, 13, very highly ranked, and I almost always lose CMP. The opponent then pivots out into Ampharos and I answer with Drapion. This opponent does have Thunder Punch. Of course, we'd much rather they're on Brutal Swing and Trailblaze, but you can't have it all. Looking at my health, I might just about survive this Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch doesn't secure the knockout. We're only 1 Poison Sting off the next crunch, which means that Volt Switch won't register. Crunch actually forces a Protect Shield, and this is perfect. We can now send out Skuntank. Skuntank gets the Poison Jab farm down before the opponent even reaches a charge move. The opponent then sends out Talonflame. I bank a boatload of energy, pivot out into my own Poliwrath. The opponent is going to need to fire off a Scald to secure the knockout. I think the smarter play here would have been to actually invest the Protect Shield and look to counter farm down, as I've got 2 shields. I actually undercharge, not wanting to give Talonflame a free Incinerate. However, I was almost certain that 2 crunches would be lethal. The first crunch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and what you're actually seeing here is a 101 on how to throw a game and save 2 Protect Shields for next season. Oof, what a potato I am at times. In the next battle, we see a bit of a core breaker in the form of Nidoqueen. Of course, they do resist counter, and the Earth Power does massive damage to our backline. The opponent makes a very nice catch, making me look very silly, catching the Icy Wind onto Feraligatr. However, Icy Wind is going to lower the damage output of this Gator. We're going to tank the first Hydro Cannon. It's IV dependent who wins CMP here, so I'm just going to throw 4 poison jabs and the crunch, not playing to a CMP tie in case I look very silly again at losing CMP. Crunch actually forces a protect shield, and I think at this stage we're just going to match, commit to the poison jab farm down and start spamming that Nidoqueen with crunches. Despite us being in the red, it's going to be quite a difficult poison jab farm down. Back out comes Nidoqueen, we fire off the first crunch, goes unshielded. If the opponent doesn't throw, we're going to reach the next crunch. This crunch will be forcing a protect shield or secure on the knockout. The opponent optimests their final protection. They do get a massive poison jab farm down. We're going to send out Poliwrath. The opponent needs to throw the Earth Power. If they throw a Poison Fang, it's not going to be lethal. The opponent does throw the Poison Fang, then pivot out into Jellicent. We bank the Icy Wind and send out Drapion. And it should be pretty plain sailing from here. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The opponent tried another Icy Wind catch, however this time I was more disciplined, didn't allow him to catch. We then fire off the next crunch on the CMP tie. Get that Jellicent out of here, back out comes Nidoqueen. Of course I'm not going to shield this up. The opponent needs the Earth Power to secure the knockout. Even if they did that and they were doubled up on charge moves, I'd just shield an Icy Wind for the dub. In the next battle, we see Cobalion this time in the lead. The opponent safe switch into Shadow Charizard, and this is such a scary Pokemon to deal with. This really is the bait game. You've already seen me lose once with 2 shields, and we're instantly going to no shield. Does the opponent full send? No, they don't. They look to fire off back to back. However, as it's CMP, I'm happy to shield this up and look to force either switch or the opponent's final protect shield. The opponent does invest that shield on the crunch, and they're going to be forced to throw again. We're going to save 1 protect shield for our Skuntank. Dragonclaw does secure the knockout. Charizard is insanely glassy, so what we're going to do is we're going to send in Skuntank, look to correctly shield off a Blast Burn. Even if the opponent bait me, they're only going to make a Dragonclaw. The opponent actually full send. We get a massive poison jab farm down. Back out comes Cobalion. Flamethrower doesn't get the same type of attack bonus, but my god, does it do a lot of damage. The opponent then sends out Feraligatr. We're going to farm up, look to catch the Hydro Cannon back onto Poliwrath, where it isn't going to do all that much damage. We can even survive one more. So all I need to really do here is leave enough health on Poliwrath to get off maybe 1 or 2 counters, which will put Cobalion into crunch range, which I've got banked. Back out comes Cobalion. I get off a few counters, then I'll left deep into the red. I don't even think I'm in Sacred Sword range, but regardless, we're never going to know, as crunch is going to be all she wrote. In the next battle, we see a very, very nice lead. The opponent safe switches into Tentacruel, and I answer with Drapion. Tentacruel is insanely bulky. This squid is super annoying and actually pretty good into my team. I'm going to no-shield the first one in case the opponent throw a bullshit acid spray. The opponent full send the Scald, so we're then going to farm up, throw the next crunch on the CMP tie. Crunch won't be lethal, but will put them into the red. Despite Greedent having Mud Shot and access to Body Slam, which is super spammy, Skuntank actually wins the 0 shield, which is good information to know. I'm looking at this Tentacruel's health and thinking I can actually Poison Jab farm down before the next goal. We get the perfect farm down, the opponent dies with the charge move. Back out comes Greedent, and you're going to again see the power of Skunk. Greedent, without a doubt, one of the thickest mon in the format, but these crunches do so much damage. We're actually going to look to catch back onto Poliwrath, where the Body Slam isn't going to do too much, as Poliwrath is objectively more bulky. The opponent is now core broken on Poliwrath, as they opt to send out Feraligatr. We easily survive the Hydro Cannon. We're going to return fire with the Scald, and the opponent really needs to start shielding. Scald does force the opponent's first protect shield. The opponent does get a very nice Shadow Claw farm down. Speaking of farm downs, that is exactly what I'm going to do. With the remaining health of this Feraligatr, of course, Hydro Cannon is going to do objectively more than anything that chunky little squirrel can throw. We're just going to 2-shield through it, get as much energy as we physically can. Back out comes Greedent. The opponent likely doesn't shield the first crunch. The second would do more if we got the defense drop, but looking at their health, it's pretty much game over. The opponent fires off the Body Slam. We're going to return fire with the crunch. If this crunch isn't lethal, we're going to need 2 poison jabs to knock out, and 1 is going to be all she wrote, and that is going to clutch up another 4-on-1. However, if I'm honest, it probably should have been a 5-0. So you can see they are straight battles. I've not edited them out whatsoever. We managed to go 12-3, although that probably should have been 13-2. So if you're looking for a strong team, I'd highly recommend this one. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.